All right, boom. So this is gonna be the ex-wife of P. Diddy's artist Craig Mack speaking out about how she allegedly thinks that Puff set him up and somehow he got injected with HIV, as well as just different things that she had seen along the way that Puff was doing in the back. Shout out to Art of Dialogue. That's where we getting the contact from. Shout out to Art of Dialogue, man. So we're gonna get right into this. So boom. It's gonna be three clips. One was gonna be talking about how basically she thinks that his death was a setup. One of the other one is gonna be breaking down what she's seen when she was around Puff and him, and then as well as how he took the kids and disappeared one time. It was a very emotional moment for her. So we're gonna get into this, but before we do, make sure you follow me on Kick, Twitch, Discord, IG, TikTok, Rumble, hype, like, hit the notification bell so you know when we live. Let's get into the content.
After you and Craig Mack broke up, you became homeless, right?
Yeah, when Craig and I broke up, yeah, I was homeless. I sure was. Staying pillar to post. Um, Out of my mind with depression. Just the uncertainty, not being around my children. Um, it took it took me a minute to get my mind right. And even after I thought my mind was right, my mind still wasn't right. It was extremely humbling, but it also showed me who was there for me and who wasn't there for me. It was tough. I wasn't any good to myself, you know, so I couldn't have been really good for anyone. Cause I was like stark raving lunatic. I wasn't out here like doing drugs and nothing like that. I see people upside the head with bottles and nothing like that. My brain was just constantly on go. I was sad, you know, to go from something to nothing. And then just really being at a nothing space because the people who meant the most to me, my children, I didn't have them with me. And that hurt like crazy. It's something that I I think about the times not with my children, but what I do um love now is that I have a beautiful relationship with all seven of my children. And we can laugh, we can cry. You know, they come to me damn near about everything. You know, we have a crazy line of communication. You know, they always say, "Mommy, you so mean. You don't be understanding." And I tell them, "Man, I understand a lot more than what the hell you think I understand." You know, they say, "Mommy, your delivery isn't always right." Sorry, but I'm just telling you the truth, you know. But we have a good relationship. I talk to my kids. We have a family text. Um, we laugh. We send each other funny memes, and we talk shit because that's what we do, and that's what makes them smile because they all know that they all have each other now, and they know they have.
You was telling me that Craig Mack, he kidnapped your kids at one point?
Yeah, he did. He wasn't supposed to take them out of New York. Sorry.
Nah, it's okay, it's okay. But how does that happen though? Him taking your kids?
He just up and left. Like he was living out there, and a friend of mine was supposed to go pick up some papers from him, and he told her, "Well, I'll have them, and you could send them to me." She was gonna send it to me, and he told her to give her for her to give him a few days to find what I needed, and she went over there. She had called a few times, she said, and he didn't answer because he didn't. I don't know. She was calling the house phone. She said he didn't answer. He didn't answer. So she said when she got off of work one day, she rolled by there and she went up on the porch and she knocking on the door and ringing the bell. And she said a neighbor came out and was like, "Oh, you looking for Craig?" She was like, "Yeah." And the lady was like, "They moved." And she was like, "Where?" And she was like, "We don't know. He didn't tell us." And for a long time, no one knew where he was. And then, like I said, when that video came out of him in the church, then we were able to kind of we could track him down to where it was. And that was just crazy. That was a hot mess, you know. So, yeah, that's how that went.
Did you report it to the police?
Initially, no, I didn't. I knew that my children were with their father. There was no custody agreement. He did not have custody and I didn't have custody. It wasn't anything like that. My children were with their father who had a stable home for them to be in at that time. There is no rule that says, the mom has to have the children. I thought they were in the best place at that time. And then when I couldn't find him, I was just like, well, where is he? And everyone's like, we don't know, we don't know. And then to have him pop up in that cult church. And I did speak with the police down there. But by the time I spoke with the police down there, they were big. They weren't little children anymore. And, the cop told me, I was like, well, I'm going to come down there. And he was like, look, you come down there, I'll take you over there. He said, but they're not going to let you on the compound. And when you come to the compound, it's a gate, like it's gated. And he said they will drive to the entrance of the compound in pickup trucks with shotguns. Yeah. And they will not let you in. They are very tight-lipped about speaking to someone, well, can you tell Craig to call me? Yeah, whatever. Click, just not very hospitable people at all. But like I said, that's something that you would have to discuss with them, with my children, because I don't know about the complete inner workings down there. They know a lot more than me because I only got my information from them. So
yo, you owe us an album. And I'm like, excuse my French, but I don't owe you shit. You owe me money. So if you can come up with the rest of the dough, if we can come up with the rest of the album. No dough, no records. That's it. I don't think you know what you mean when you're saying that, man. You know what I'm saying? You know what type of dude I am. You know what kind of muscle I got. You know what I'm saying? Right now, you need to be in the studio. So I said, all right, meet me up there at 7 o'clock. We talked about it. No cash, no record. I'm not going to be sitting here going in the studio all night, every night, busting my ass. And you're making me feel like even if you did have the rest of that cash, us taking it to the next level is going to be a problem because it's going to be money problem. So I caught a couple of threats, a couple of, passers-by in the street and everything else. I caught a couple of threats. And I was sitting there. I had a gun in my lap. And I'm sitting there, I'm talking to God. I'm like, Lord, I don't want to do this. But if it comes to getting ugly where somebody's going to be trying to kill me, I'm going to have to do something to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, they had every right to be mad. But I do want to go back to a comment you made earlier about Craig Mack being sick. Is it true that he had AIDS?
The truth is, myself, nor our children, our two that we have together, we did not know that Craig had AIDS until roughly 14 days before he passed. The kids knew he had been sick, but no one told us, no one told them what was wrong. And when my children found out, they called me and told me because they were very upset as to what happened. I don't know, but speaking with the coroner down there after his passing, the coroner said Craig had probably been sick between 10 and 11 years. Unmedicated. All those years. Why? I don't know. So if you do the math, that puts him back in New York when he got sick. How he got sick, we have some speculations, but I'm not at liberty to discuss those right now due to my attorneys telling me not to talk about it.
Sounds like you feel like somebody intentionally gave it to him.
Yes. Yes. I believe him getting sick was something that was intentional. Craig was a very heterosexual man. He liked women. Um, he liked the company of women. So when people were saying, oh, he was gay, he wasn't gay. Someone got to him. Craig told a friend who is down in South Carolina, he told him, he said, hey, do you still want to be in music? And the gentleman told him yes. He's younger than Craig. He told me, his exact words were, Craig told him, well, if you want to be in music, be careful because they will put someone with you and they'll poison you. At that time when he told him that, he had no idea Craig was sick with AIDS. So and Craig had a feeling that it was something given to him, not in, I guess, the way people usually contract AIDS. I don't know.
You feel like a woman was sent to him?
Yes, I do. I do believe that. I do. Craig was a big man. Craig was a 6'4", 285-pound man. You know, he could pick up things. He was strong. He was a man's man type of dude. You know, Paul Bunyan, like, you know, it's just ugh, it's just it makes me mad because we are in the process of getting answers. And it's not so much I need an answer. My children want to know. It's owed to my kids. How? Because that's something that bothers them. You know, if their father had been an intravenous drug user, sharing needles, they would know the probability of him getting sick from that. But this was just like out of the blue. The kids were there prior to getting older and leaving, and their dad had been having bouts of sickness. You know, when I spoke with him last, he told me he had gout. And I told him, Craig, you don't have to listen to what this white man is saying. Take your ass to the doctor. And he said, I'll see. Craig never went to the doctor. But I believed him when he said he had gout. It's not unusual for someone his age, being African American, to get gout. I know a few people with gout. But they go to the doctor. But he just didn't go.
So he knew that he had AIDS and he didn't treat it?
From what I understand, no. And if he was taking some medicine, my kids and I, we don't know what he was taking, if anything. But he couldn't have been taking anything. You know, because by the time he got really, really ill, from what I was understanding, even if he had took medicine, it wouldn't have helped him. It wouldn't.
Because he had full-blown AIDS at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Sad.
And respectfully, you and your kids, y'all clean, right? Y'all didn't get it, right?
No. Craig had contracted AIDS after he and I had broke up. And I had my children, you know, they're fine. And then I went on to have 3 other children, and they're fine. So no, I don't have it. My children don't have it. It was isolated with him.
When you and Craig Mack pulled up on Diddy asking him for money, can you give me the backstory behind that?
Yes, yes. This is a true story, okay? We went to an album release party. I don't remember whose album release party or song listening. It wasn't anything really big. I don't remember whose it was. We just went. And the next day, Craig was to leave to go out of town to go do a show. And mind you, this is when shows had started, you know, dying down. And we were basically living show to show. And we were at the party, you know, finances were messed up. And might I add, we were young and we were not very financially fiscal with the monies that came in, as a lot of people in their youth are not financially fiscal with money. So we hung out for a little while, and we were getting ready to leave, and Puff, we were all walking out together. And Craig asked Puff, you know, let me get a few dollars to hold, you know, me over until I get back from doing this show. And Puff went in his pocket and pulled out a knot of money about this big and gave him $100 bill. And I was just, I couldn't even believe he did that. I was shocked. You know, you can't say bad boy family and you don't treat a person like family. Especially when they put their blood, sweat, and tears into their music that ultimately only benefited him. But yes, he only handed him $100. And I was just like, whoa. I'm from Chicago. That would not have gone over well here. And he had 2 security guards with him. So it was just like, what can you say? And that's how that happened. And we got into the car service to go back home. And he handed me the $100. And I rolled the window down. I just threw it out the window. It's like, I don't want this. I don't.
And when he gave him the money, he was serious.
He was dead ass serious. He didn't laugh. You know, he literally was serious. I know when a person's serious and a person isn't serious. He was serious. Serious and extremely insulting. And like, how do you react to something like that? Because I've never seen anything like that. And Craig was hurt. You know, he was embarrassed. He did that in front of his 2 security guards and his wife. You know, it's just like, just crazy business. It was a sight to behold. It really was. And it was disheartening. And it was cold. I've just never experienced that level of coldness. Or not even having empathy. It was the lack of empathy for me. Like it was too much. And the fact that Craig didn't say anything back was like, kind of like, bruh, you know, just like, I was upset. I was very upset. But I wasn't vocal upset because I'm not one of those screaming. I mean, I can't scream and yell and get angry, but we're outside. There's, you know, people around, and I'm not gonna do that. I'll discuss that with Craig.
Why he take the money?
I have no idea. I would have rejected it personally. But to me, that was between those 2. It was between them, and I'm looking at it. You know, everyone's not gonna handle every situation how you would handle a situation. If it had been me, I would have been like, are you bugging? Fuck it, I don't want it. And I would just walked off because I would have been insulted. But like I said, everyone's not going to handle everything like someone else.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for me to hear, man. Just me listening to you talk about it right now, I can tell you still hurt by it.
Yeah, it does. And I only smile not to grimace.
Roxanne finally made it happen, finally got you on the platform. Me and you've been talking for about 2 years now, I want to say. For those who may not be familiar with you, let the people know who you are.
My name is Roxanne, and I am the ex-wife of Craig Mack.
And before we get into Craig Mack, I gotta say, you did a great job in that Diddy documentary. How did that come about?
Um, I was it's a crazy story, but it's like so typical of a Roxanne thing. I was in Sam's Club with my husband, and we were in there doing some shopping. And I remember it was cold because I had on my big North Face coat, and I had my earplug in, ear pod, or whatever, and my phone was in my pocket, and my phone had rang. But by the time I got my phone, I had missed the call, and I looked at it and I seen that it was a phone call from Eric Sermon. And I love Eric. Um, Eric is family. So I called him back. I'm just like, hey, what's good? Everything okay? What's going on? And Eric was like, hey, they doing a Diddy documentary, right? I was like, I heard about it. I was like, I didn't think it was really gonna be happening. And he was like, yeah, it is. And they would like you to be in it. I was like, oh, word. He was like, yeah. And um, he I was like, oh, I'm scared. He was like, well, I'm gonna be in it too. And I was like, okay, well, I'll do it. I'll do it. And I asked my husband, was it okay? And I spoke with my children, with Craig, to ask them if it was cool with them. And everyone said yes. So I went and did it.
Yeah, the story you told in that documentary, man, was crazy. How did it get that bad between Craig Mack and Diddy? Like, how did it get to that extent?
Craig didn't want to be on Bad Boy anymore. He didn't like the vibe. He didn't like the feel. He was being restricted as far as the direction he wanted to go. I believe Craig wanted to go one direction with his music. Puff wanted him to go a different direction, and Craig wasn't budging. He is a tourist, so tourists just kind of bullheaded. He was just like, no, I want to do it what I want to do. And I don't believe they were able to come to a happy medium. And Craig was disenchanted. We were broke, even show money to show money, and still had bills to pay. And he just he wasn't happy there, you know all the glitz and glamour, it wasn't worth the headache for him at that point. And there were other, little shady things going on that we were finding out about, and he was just like, really. So the $100 thing, and then another thing happened, and he was just tired. you know he was tired of being there. I remember one time Craig had a video to shoot, and the video was making moves with Puff. So that day, Craig had a routine before he went to go do a video. He would want to go get his hair cut first, and you know, get that iconic afro tightened up, and he would want to go get new socks. Craig had a thing about fresh white socks. He wants socks. He went and got some new Timberlands. I believe they were black. He got some black jeans, and he went and got a fresh black t-shirt, just a regular black tee. And got all his stuff, got showered, and you know let's go. And we went down to the video shoot, and it was in the Wall Street area, and it was a nighttime shoot. So we got down there, it was in the evening. um and it was shot I don't know the name of the building, but it's iconic because it had like a statue, like a statue of like George Washington maybe sitting there, and it's has these columns, and it looks real politicky, it's real political looking, and it had the columns and the white steps. So we get there and there are people setting up, pyrotechnics because, and they had a big like jumbotron screen, and it was a lot going on. So, when we got there, Craig's looking around, everyone, hey, Craig speaking. And he goes over to wardrobe and they were like, well, we have some things that you can wear. And Craig was like, he's seen a motorcycle jacket and he was like, oh man, I like this, because Craig had recently got into motorcycles. Mind you, he bought a motorcycle and didn't know how to ride it. I taught him, but that's a different story. So he sees this motorcycle jacket and he's like, oh man, I love this jacket. And he's like, I'm gonna wear this in the video. So he wore that jacket in the video. And once the video wrapped, Craig was like, I'm gonna take this jacket. So he tells the wardrobe person, like, I'm gonna take this jacket. And they were like, okay, you'll be billed for it. End of story, So fast forward, I don't know how long, you get the invoice for the video shoot. And it's broken down to who was there, this what got to be paid for, this what has to be paid for. It's an itemized list of everything and the cost. Well, one of the things that was on the invoice was the jacket. And it said like $1,000. I don't remember the exact price, but I know it was thousands, not 2,000, like in the thousand range. And Craig was like, he didn't pay any attention to it, So time goes on. I don't know exactly how long, maybe a month or two. Craig goes down on Jamaica Ave because he has to go get some more Timberlands. And Craig wore Timberlands like people wear house shoes. So it was nothing for him to get a new pair of Timberlands like maybe every 2 weeks. So he went to get these Timberlands. I wasn't with him. And he was down on Jamaica Ave. And he sees the exact motorcycle jacket that he wore in the video hanging up in a window. And he's like, oh, but the jacket was on sale. So he goes in and he inquires, what was the original price of that jacket in the window? They told Craig the jacket was only like $300. And the sales price was $2 something, the low twos. So Craig comes home and I could tell there was something wrong because he would come home and he was loud. Hey, I'm home, something. And I was in the room and he came in with his bags and shit and he plopped down on the bed and I want to say Craig like started smoking a cigarette or something. And he's just like sitting there. And I was like, what's wrong? He said, where's that invoice from that video shoot? And I was like, oh, it's on the dresser. And, we have a pile of papers on the dresser, bills and just whatever. And I thumbed through it and I found it. And he said, I was like, here it is. He said, find out how much that jacket costs. I said, okay. So I'm looking. I was like, 1,000, whatever. He was like, motherfucker. I said, what's wrong? And that's when he explained to me that he had been down on Jamaica Ave and the jacket had only been $300 at full price and was on sale for $2 something. But the markup on the invoice was at 1,000. So he was pissed. he was pissed. And to be perfectly honest, I don't even know if he said anything about it. But I do very, very, very clearly remember him being extremely upset. So that was one of the things. Well, if they price me for this, what else have I been overpriced for? And he just was not happy with being in the company that he was in. And, you know, because that's dirty work. For real. So yeah, that was dirty work, you know. He was becoming more and more disenchanted with being a bad boy because he felt like, if you can do this, what else can you do? What else are you upcharging me for? You know, and then when you find out that they charge damn near for the air that you breathe, you know, it becomes a weight, and it was a weight, it was a yoke on him, and he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy with being there. He wasn't happy with not having freedoms that he wanted to have musically, and you robbing me. Essentially, you're robbing me. And that's where a lot of his hurt came in. And he was just ready to exit stage left. He's like, I don't want to be here anymore. He was tired. You know, sometimes you could see the writing on the wall, but then when you see someone charge you $1,000 for something that only costs $300, it's just like, are you fucking kidding me? You know, and that's basically where he was.
Gene Deal, welcome back, my man.
Good to be back, bro.
Yes, indeed, man. I mean, had to bring you back, man. This documentary got everybody talking, people going at it. So, you know, it was only right to bring you back and get your point of view, man. But I want to get right into it, man. 50 and Ja. How you feel about both of them going at it? You seen it?
I couldn't do nothing but see it, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because 50, you know, tried to smash him with one of the stories that we told on Art of Dialogue before. But what people don't realize is that the story that they put out there is like that there was no girls in the room. I told the story and I said that there was girls in the room. I just want to get that out there straight before I tell you how it all went about and what really happened. There was Sarah Chapman and her girlfriend. They flew with us from Atlanta. But let me just start the story like this. Check it out. Me and Puff went to this exotic bookstore, brother. You know what I'm saying? This is the first time I ever went to an exotic bookstore, you know, with Puff. I didn't know he even did that. But we was in Atlanta. So when we went to the door, they gave him a brown paper bag. So I guess this is a place that he was used to and people knew him there. So when they gave him a brown paper bag, Puff was just going around the store, just picking items off the shelves and stuff like that, putting them in the brown paper bag. So then, you know, I was behind him and no Diddy, but I was about 3 feet behind him, you know what I'm saying, as he was putting stuff and putting it in his bag and stuff like that. So this one particular place that he was put up there, he had to reach up kind of high and get it. So he just started pulling things out. And he was pulling a lot of them off there. So I was like so I looked up and the thing said butt plugs. When he walking down the things of butt plugs, I said, hey, yo, just to mess with him. I said, hey, yo, what are you getting these for? And he said, can I do my shopping by myself? I said, yes, you can. And I waited up at the register for him, you know, because they had the big counter up there. So when he came to the counter, I said, yo, I'm finna see what this motherfucker this mofo is putting in his bag, because I know he gonna have to take everything and put it on the counter so the dude could count it, right? My man, when he came there, he gave the dude a wad of hundreds like this. You know what I'm saying? He gave him a wad of 100 and just put it up there. The dude ain't even, you know what I'm saying? He ain't even want to know what was in the bag. I was like, yo, wow. So then we was catching the G4 jet. You know, we had to go to the Astra because we was catching the G4 jet and we was going to North Carolina to do the show. So somehow he had Ja Rule to go with us, you know what I'm saying? And him and Ja was talking. And this whole time him and Ja is talking, he talking about Ja going at Jigga. You know what I'm saying? This is crazy. But he was talking about Ja getting at Jay-Z. And he was talking bad and talking crazy about Jay-Z and how Ja was talking about if it wasn't for him, that Jay wouldn't be the artist he was. He got him started. You know, he wrote certain things and stuff like that to put him out there because, you know, back in the day, nobody was even effing with Jay like that. So, but Puff was trying to, he was adamant about Ja going at Jay. You understand? So we get to the hotel, we're in the presidential suite and all this stuff like that. So Ja and him is, you know, chilling and everything with Jay, eating and everything, shit like that. So then they all went to the room. It was like him, Ja, Sarah, and her girlfriend. They went to the room. I don't know what they were doing in there. I didn't give a shit. But Puff told me, Gene, do not let nobody come in this room. Don't let nobody come in this room. So hour or so went by, whatever like that. Time went by. The doorbell rang. And it was this dude at the door saying that he was Ja's cousin. And I was like, he said, I'm here for Ja Rule. I said, who you? He said, I'm his cousin and everything like that. He said, I said, but yo, he busy right now. I'm telling the dude that he's busy. You know, the dude is talking about, yo, but I want to talk to him. I said, yo, bro, they don't want to be bothered. You know, I'm trying to, you know, tell his kid, yo, they don't want to be bothered, bro. You know what I'm saying? He said, yo, but that's my cousin. You know what I'm saying? I said, well, listen here, bro. They're in a room, they don't want to be bothered. You know, and you could see that there's only one room going back that way when you come to the room. You can see it's only one room. So then it's a piano, it's a couch, it's a room right there. And he talking about he was going through the room. I said, yo, bro, Jesus Christ had to come down here and take the breath out of my body before you go in that room. You understand? Next thing you know, I grabbed him and we started. It wasn't no wrestling thing like that because he couldn't handle it at the time. He could front and tell his friends because he didn't hit me up on Instagram. He could tell his friends all he want to, but that if Puff and Ja tell you the story, that nigga was upside the piano. You understand? So now, Ja and Puff run out. They butt the naked, bruh, and they was grabbing towels. You understand? They was grabbing towels. And then Puff was like, yo, Gene, what's going on? John was like, yo, he said, that's my cousin. I was like, yo, bruh, he tried to get in the room and I wasn't letting him get in the room, bruh. And then Puff looked at Ja like this, you know, what that looked like, he said. And then Ja said, you don't want to be up in that room because there was a whole lot of freaky shit going on. So I started laughing, dude left, they went back in the room, and that was it. You know what I'm saying? So now the story grew as if Ja was in there and him and Diddy was doing, you know, something. And like I said that they was doing something. I don't know what the F they were doing, bruh. The only reason I know was some freaky things going up in there that Ja really didn't even understand because he said, yo, you ain't want to be up in there because there's a whole lot of freaky shit going on. So I was like, I wouldn't have known nothing. I wouldn't even cared. I don't care today. But you know how the internet is. They cut and paste what they want to paste, and they put what they want to put to make it seem like I was saying this dude and Puff was in there, you know, alone, and they wasn't. You understand? And that was them. You know, they did their thing, you know, up in there with the honeys in there. I guess. I can only guess. So listen, bro, I've said this 1,000 times. It was Sarah Chapman and a girlfriend. Now, Sarah Chapman, if people don't know who she is, now she's one of Puff Baby mamas. But prior to her being one of Puff Baby mama, this is the same girl that was dating Puff best friend.
Okay, boom. So basically, that was Craig Mack's ex-wife basically saying that Puff didn't give a shit about Craig Mack at all. One night he asked for some money before he got on stage to do a show. Puff pulled out a wad of bands, gave him $100. Puff charged him $1,200 for outfit in the video when it was only $300. So different things, but she basically just alleged that Puff had some female transmit HIV to Craig Mack. But y'all check out the Art of Dialogue for the rest of that. We on to the next one. Follow me on Kick, Twitch, Discord, IG, TikTok, Rumble, Hype, like, hit the notification bell so you know when we live. We gone.